Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed Nader and today we'll be focusing on the improvements in the Egyptian economy under the tenure of President Abdel al-Sisi in the past 6 or 7 years, and more specifically in the past week, as we did see Fitch ratings agency has maintained the main outlook, a stable outlook for Egypt in the upcoming months, with the B+ rating the same as it was in the past period, which says that we have succeeded to be overcoming the hardships in terms of the economy during the fight against the coronavirus pandemic, which has taken place all over the world, not just in Africa and not just in the region of the Middle East and North Africa. In Egypt, in the world, we have maintained the same stable outlook for the Egyptian economy in the upcoming months, which is in itself a success and the testament for what had happened in the past few years in terms of the improvements and the economic reform program which was implemented in Egypt. And tonight I'm honored to be having with me in the studio to be shedding more light on those improvements in the Egyptian economy, Dr. Nabil Abdel, the Professor of Project Management and Business Administration. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
My pleasure having you.
Pleasure is all mine.
Thank you.
We will be starting straight away with a report about the latest outlook or the ratings by the Fitch ratings agency, which has said that we would be having a stable outlook for Egypt in the upcoming period with the same rating, B+. So let's see more details in the upcoming report.
Fitch Ratings announced earlier last week that Egypt's long-term foreign currency issuer default rating (IDR) remains at B+ with a stable outlook. Fitch attributed its affirmation to Egypt's recent travel record of fiscal and economic reforms, which the authorities are furthering, as well as its large economy, which has demonstrated stability and resilience through the global COVID-19 pandemic. It added that Egypt's economy has outperformed the vast majority of Fitch-rated sovereigns over the past year. A low incidence of coronavirus cases and deaths allowed for a measured public health response and supported resilient domestic demand, even as tourism and other export-oriented sectors sagged. Fitch projected Egypt's real GDP growth to reach 3% in fiscal year 2020-2021. The credit rating agency expected that the recovery of tourism and shipping through the Suez Canal will drive an increase in the economic growth to post 6% in fiscal year 2021-2022. Meanwhile, it said that Egypt's inflation has continued to trend down, projecting it to average 5% in the current fiscal year 2020-2021. It also noted that the minimal currency volatility in 2020 reflects a degree of intervention from the Central Bank of Egypt, as well as public sector banks. For Egypt's current account deficit, Fitch forecast a marginal widening of the current account deficit in fiscal year 2021-2022, expecting remittances and tourism receipts to fall further as the full impact of the pandemic shock crystallizes in fiscal year 2020-2021. It also expected Egypt's net external debt, including non-resident holdings of local debt, to rise in nominal terms, but to remain contained as a share of GDP. For Egypt's public finances, Fitch expected a modest and temporary widening in the general government fiscal deficits to 8.5% of GDP in fiscal year 2020-2021.
Welcome back. As we did see in the past report, Dr. Nabil Abdel, how do you see the credit rating of Egypt at B+ by Fitch with a stable or a positive outlook during those times of the coronavirus pandemic in specific?
Actually, it's a great performance for the Egyptian government, with heading by President al-Sisi. it's a great performance with the Egyptian people themselves. That means this is a message actually we've been doing for almost since 2017 till the moment. That means we are working right, we are going in the right direction, we are performing right, and tomorrow is much better than today. Mm-hmm. That means the credibility of the Egyptian economy is great. That means it's the Egyptian economy and investment in the Egyptian economy and in the country itself in Egypt is trustworthy. Mm-hmm. This is the language which international investors would understand.
Fitch credit ratings agency has stated that there were a number of factors that led to the same outlook or a stable outlook or a positive outlook for the near future with the same credit rating at B+, undertaken or implemented by the government. The factors and the economic reform program that we have seen in the past years, we can see the results of this program now, even during the times of the coronavirus pandemic. How do you see those factors that were stated in the report of Fitch?
Actually, again, we've been, it is a great performance for the Egyptian government, relying on passing the pandemic period, and also in the meantime, working and helping and support the economy and Egyptian investors or international investors working in the local market, local economy, to have a bigger investment, a bigger projects, and that actually which led all such performance, great performance in the mega projects which the government has started in Damietta, in Galioun, in different areas in North Sinai, Alexandria, and so on. Those are those reflect actually very important issues for the government, the will of the government, the will of the political leaders that we are intending to develop our country, and also the will of the Egyptian people whom are suffering and in the meantime enjoying what's happening for a better tomorrow for their children and grandchildren.
Yes, the will of the political leadership under President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is so evident that we need to be working today, and we need to be having more efforts and more measures as we did see in the past 5 or 6 years. How do you see the economic measures? Which one of them was the most important that led to the results that we have now?
Working, working, working. He has said it once before, and he's still trying to achieve it, and he's working on it.
Yes.
Working, we have to start working. You have to wake up at 6 a.m. I think we all remember that word. We all remember that sentence. And actually, you can see in different fields, in different areas of business, everybody's working, everybody's building, people are building, although what happened in the pandemic, although the purchasing power, which is almost the same or almost lower, but still people are striving for a better tomorrow because they can see whatever decisions have been taken, it's better. The stability of the country itself reflects the stability, the guts of the political leaders or political leader which has taken a very serious economic decisions, working everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Working everywhere, and this means that we need to be changing the mindset of the citizens, to be changing the mentality of the Egyptians. How do you see the importance of this? And do you think that we are gradually reaching this goal to be changing the whole mindset of the Egyptian citizens?
This is, let's say, this is the real secret of the success,
yes,
of the success, which is changing the mindset. For a while, we used to sleep, or we used to dream, or we used to talk. But currently, there's no time for sleep. There's no time for dreaming. Only the time right now is to work, develop for a higher growth for myself, for my family, for my people, for whomever it is. So the real secret of the success, which which would be applied everywhere in the world, is changing the mindset for a better work, a better environment, so working again.
On the other hand, the report of Fitch, it stated the positive and the negative points for the Egyptian economy. In your opinion, what are the main points of concern regarding the future of the Egyptian economy in the upcoming years?
Actually, according to what I see right now from the mega projects,
yes,
the economical projects, and even through such hard times with the pandemic period, still FDI, foreign direct investment, is still flowing to the country itself. That means even with the negative signs which has been reflected by Fitch or any other international rating agency, but still we are working on the right track, and we are working in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yes, speaking of the right direction, the report also mentioned the governmental general debt in relation to the GDP ratio here in Egypt. How do you think this will be addressed by the political leadership and the government in the near future?
Firstly, they have been working for increasing the currency which they succeeded with. So the foreign currency reservation in the CBI, Central Bank of Egypt, has already existed and being increased for a period of time. That reflects again the flow, the foreign direct investment which is being imported from outside, and in the meantime the projects itself. Currently you are spending, but you are not spending for consumption. You are spending for productive projects for now and for tomorrow. So whenever you can imagine, yeah, right.
Yes.
You can imagine right now when you start in such hard times, which worldwide is experiencing difficulties and very hard time and hardships of the economy worldwide. You are fulfilling growth in the economy itself. This is number one. Number two, lots of projects are being done right now. Lots of projects are being prepared for right now. You can imagine yourself, you are doing all this even without tourism, which is considered one of the very important factors and crucial factors for the economy, for the Egyptian economy. You've been achieving a very good figure for the exports last seasons. You can imagine when you start exporting the gas, you are attracting the energy sector worldwide for you right here to be the hub of the region, according to the very serious, very strict political leader with economy decisions.
As we have seen since last year, in the past 15 months, for example, since December 2019, the whole world has been affected by the coronavirus pandemic, not just in terms of the health of the citizens all over the world, but in terms of the economy, the health of the economy as well, in the world, in Africa, in the Middle East, and of course in Egypt. In your opinion, what were the main negative impacts of the coronavirus pandemic on the Egyptian economy in specific?
The growth rate. You have not, the only negative one is the growth rate, which is instead of growing in the right figure which you were planning for, you have not grown enough, your economy will not grow enough for such number. But still, even if there were negative points and negative aspects for the economy, for the people, for the government, for everything, but still you are a way better or far better than many other economies worldwide.
And speaking of the timing of implementing the economic reform measures here in Egypt, relatively before or just before the coronavirus pandemic hit the entire world, how do you see the importance of the timing of implementing the economic reform measures here in Egypt, as President Abdel al-Sisi is always emphasizing the importance of time as a race?
Actually, the timing of the reform itself was perfect, because if we have not started the reform on time or by that time, that was to be led to a very negative impact for the Egyptian economy and Egyptian people, because you can imagine yourself the cash flow or the hard currency flow for your country is flowing and flying to other countries or to other people whom are not deserved to have it. But such reform, actually, it helped a lot for being able to absorb the shock of the pandemic for the Egyptian, and the proof is we are moving forward very good.
Doctor, you mentioned the FDIs, or the foreign direct investments, before the coronavirus pandemic. How do you see the performance of the government in attracting more investments, and more specifically in changing the laws and to be legislating new laws that attract more investments, that are aiming to be having more investment for direct investments here in Egypt?
Firstly, they have started with the roads, railway and roads, which is very important worldwide in worldwide countries, because without roads, that means you will be having a lot of problems, a lot of time wasting for transporting your products, either in or out, in raw material for the factories, or out for the ports to be exported. So establishing and creating all such, or constructing all such railroads, railways, and constructing the new roads, that will lead in the very near future for a better jump and a gap for the economic growth. This is number one. Number two, when the investor, for the FDI, when a new investor would decide to come to start investing, or to start in thinking and investing in the economy or something else, two important factors would be considered at that time. Is one, the political stability, and already we have it. We have political stability. What's being done around the country itself confirm that we are seeking and looking for the stability, which give a very positive sign for the foreign investors. Number two is the road itself. Number three is legislations which has been done and which is being negotiated and discussed in the parliament itself to be taken for lowering the time of solving a problem, or a clean rules and laws for the investors and for the investment itself.
As we can see on the screen, thousands of development projects all over Egypt have been implemented in a short space of time. How do you see the process of funding and financing those development projects in a very short space of time?
Actually, all over, all the Egyptians are asking themselves such a question. We used before to say, how can we finance this? We used to say, we used to ask ourselves, we need to do so, but we don't know how we'll finance it. Right now, currently, for the time being, we've been asking ourselves how all such mega projects have been done, how such mega projects have been financed. That also reflects very strong and positive signs for the local and international investors, and also international rating houses.
According to the report by Fitch, the GDP growth here in Egypt would be hitting in the fiscal year 2020-21, 3%. And this in accordance to what happened in the past fiscal years, 3.6% and 5.6% in 2019-2018. How do you see the performance of the Egyptian economy and the growth of the Egyptian economy as we speak, because there is a coronavirus pandemic all over the world, not just in Egypt?
Actually, the equation is very simple. You can imagine yourself, you don't have resources, financial resources which you used to have from like tourism, the flow of goods and raw materials which you need for your product, for your factories, were not flowing very smoothly according to the pandemic, and the seriousness of the pandemic worldwide countries,
Yes.
Especially from China, which has started which where the pandemic started right there, and although all this, all those factors which would hit any economy and kill the economy, any economy very quickly.
Yes.
But we've been standing very strong, and we are experiencing very positive factors for building and working and so on.
On this note, what is the importance of diversifying the economy that we have now?
The importance is exactly what we are experiencing right now. You don't have tourism, but you have exports. You don't have flow of raw material from outside
Other
and imported goods.
all of the time.
So you have local production.
Yes.
So whenever something or whenever any of the sectors would suffer, so the other sector is not suffering. Adding to this is the oil inventions, which was a year ago or something, the gas, and all such
The
projects.
discoveries.
Right.
Yes. On the other hand, inflation, according to the report by Fitch, would be decreased or decreasing this year to be hitting 5%. And it would be jumping once again in the next fiscal year to be reaching 7%. Why do you think it would be decreasing in one fiscal year and increasing the next?
It's all connected to the cash flow. So when there is a week of or a leak of cash flow, that means it will be decreased. When the people start to have the real and normal cash flow again, or the perception that they do have the purchasing power is coming back, that would lead to the increase of the inflation.
Yes, Doctor, you mentioned the efforts by the Central Bank of Egypt as well to be supporting the small and medium enterprises and the investors as well. How do you see those efforts, and more specifically in the past fiscal year?
Actually, they helped a lot the exporters, the producers,
Yes.
and also helped a lot in form of or through the Ministry of Finance. Those are the labor, the daily workers, whom we call the day workers, whom do not have a substantial income and a steady income. So helping from that side, economic-wise, for those who cannot afford the pandemic as it is, it helped us and is still helping us to go through the pandemic and such hard time very smoothly.
Speaking of the small and medium enterprises, how do you see the previous statements by President Abdel al-Sisi that the banks should be supporting the SMEs, and in return, how much money do you think the Central Bank of Egypt and the banks have poured into the SMEs in Egypt, specifically since March or February of 2020?
Actually, the small and medium enterprises in worldwide economies are the backbone for any country.
Yes.
That's why I think President Sisi has decided to support all such type of all such sector, which include the small and medium enterprises. And there are a lot of financial programs and crediting programs and supporting programs has been offered by the CBE to the local banks for supporting all such type of companies. Those companies, small and medium enterprises, they would have a lot of workers and employees, which will be the backbone for the mega projects and the mega producers for the economy.
Yes, and this leads us to the importance of the private sector in terms of raising the growth rates here in Egypt, according to the statements made by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, and we'll be having more information about those statements, about the growth of the Egyptian economy and the role of the private sector in raising it in this year in the upcoming report.
Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli said the country counted on the private sector to raise growth levels through its investments in the government's projects and initiatives. The Prime Minister's remarks were made at a webinar organized by the American Chamber of Commerce in Egypt last week. Madbouli added that the government has allocated 500 billion Egyptian pounds for the Decent Life initiative and its affiliated projects despite coronavirus crisis and the subsequent pressure on the state budget. The private sector should play a pivotal role in this regard through investing in the initiative's projects. He went on to say that the government would not continue to spend more and more from the state budget in such projects, adding that the private sector should be at the fore, directing its investments to state projects. Madbouli urged American investors to tap the opportunities that Egypt has, asserting Egypt's desire for more involvement in the Egyptian economy by the U.S. private sector. In the aftermath of coronavirus pandemic, Madbouli noted that the government managed to set the balance between preserving public health and managing the economy without restoring to a total lockdown. On the support Egypt's banking sector extended, Madbouli explained that it has allocated 50 billion Egyptian pounds to back real estate for low and middle-income classes and 20 billion Egyptian pounds to support the stock market. Egypt has also launched other initiatives that target boosting the private sector, small and medium-sized enterprises, and retail loans. He underscored Egypt's strategic target to be a regional energy hub, noting that the private sector has a critical role to play in this regard and has the chance to tap significant opportunities that the sector provides. Myron Brilliant, Executive Vice President and Head of the International Affairs Division at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in Washington, said the U.S. business community is focusing on investing in healthcare, digitization, fintech, agribusiness, and energy in Egypt.
Welcome back. You're still watching the daily debate. As we did see in the past report, the statements by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli about the growth rates in Egypt and the role of the private sector in helping the Egyptian economy grow more and more in the upcoming years. Dr. Nabil Abdel, the Professor of Project Management and Business Administration, is here with us tonight. Dr. Nabil, how do you see the importance of the private sector in the upcoming years, specifically after the fight of the coronavirus?
Again, the private sector is the real backbone for the Egyptian economy and
Yes.
for worldwide countries' economy even. So the more the support the government is giving, the stronger the economy of the Egyptian government or Egyptian people or even Egypt would be.
The Fitch report also stated that there was a minimal currency volatility in 2020, which means that there was an intervention, a slight intervention by the Central Bank of Egypt. How do you see this intervention, the importance of it, and the range of it?
I don't believe there was a real or serious intervention because we've been experiencing pandemic, number one. Number two, there were a lot of issues regarding the import, the raw material, the purchasing power, and so many things. So many factors would affect any economy in the world. Number three, whatever you are doing for your economy right now it will be reflected very soon, not immediately. You can imagine yourself if you have if there was not slight intervention from the Central Bank of Egypt for any wrong practices would happen. You can imagine, and also in the meantime you are doing and conducting mega projects and working everywhere. If there was not a slight intervention and during that time, that would affect the economy very. That's why We even didn't feel it. Yeah.
Do you have any concerns about the appreciation of the Egyptian pound?
No, I think it's doing well, doing the right. It reflects the right work and the right direction for the Egyptian government and for the suffering which Egyptian people, for the bravery of the Egyptian people with their political leadership.
Yes, you've mentioned, Doctor, the development programs that we have witnessed here in Egypt, building new cities, building a new capital in terms of construction and building new roads all over the country, thousands of new roads. Taking it file by file, speaking about the new capital, how do you see the importance of such a project for the economy of Egypt?
The new capital is a real landmark for the Egyptian future.
Yes.
And that would reflect when we say it's over, the new capital has started working over there, everything is fine, you will start to see the real Egypt there. Because we've been suffering actually for a long time, and we've been known for, we are a very crowded country, busy country, roads are not paved well for so long. So you can imagine you have the civilian picture which you need for worldwide leaders and investors when they start, when they come, when they practice. So there is another and very well designed and planned capital for Egypt. It's real landmark for the future.
Do you think it would be giving a different picture of the Egyptians and Egypt?
Definitely yes. Definitely yes. Even for us as Egyptians.
Yes.
If we talk about even us as Egyptian, when you see what's happening over there, when you pay yourself a visit over there, when you have a friend from whom is interested in investing in the Egyptian economy, and you pay him a visit over there, it's amazing. What's happening there is really amazing. And maybe many people are not imagining what's happening over there because they have not visited. But actually, what's being done over there is awesome.
Speaking of the awesomeness that we can see on the screen of the new administrative capital, the tours made by President Abdel al-Sisi, by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, to be following up on the pace of work at the new capital. You've mentioned, Doctor, the investments and the new image that is being brought over for the Egyptians and for Egypt by the new capital. How do you see the investments and the foreign direct investments that we have had in the new administrative capital, especially with friendly countries like the United Arab Emirates and China?
When you get there, when you pay yourself, when you go there yourself, when you visit what's happening, when you see by yourself.
So you visited the new administrative capital?
Of course, yes.
Several times?
Definitely, yes. Definitely, yes. And when you visit the new capital, when you give it a visit every month, even one time,
yes,
you can notice yourself how progress you are doing there. So you can imagine when you start your meetings and your business in a very smooth and friendly and professional and advanced capital, how would it be reflected on the mindset of the international investors? And you can imagine, in addition to this, what's happening right now in the infrastructure for the Egyptian infrastructure, for the local infrastructure. So you can imagine when they are both would be implemented, how would be the matchmaking between we have prepared the facilities for you, the infrastructure, legislations, and the location where you will start and do your business very smoothly, likewise any advanced country in the world.
What impressed you the most at the new administrative capital?
Everything. Technology, buildings, planning, organization, timing, beauty, everything, atmosphere, everything.
On the other hand, there are about 23 other new cities that are being implemented simultaneously at the same time. So building a new capital, building new cities all over Egypt, new Mansoura, new Alamein, new Damietta city. So a lot of new cities being built at the same time. How do you see the importance of building an extension for the already existing cities?
I'm not going to tell you how do you think. I'm going to tell you how did I feel. Not only myself, but when you have foreign investors are coming over to have a look for the new cities, for the first time, the first impression, you wouldn't believe that this is the real Egypt. This is the new Egypt. So when you are talking about new capital and new cities, you are really talking about what your children, what would you like your children to have, what I would like to my children, my grandchildren to have and live in the future.
Yes.
We are living the future right now. This is what I can say.
We are living the future.
The future right now. It's very impressive.
And speaking of the past, because Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Moula stated in the past few days that we are building for the future, but we are not forgetting the past. We are renovating Cairo at the same time. The government is renovating Cairo, the old neighborhoods, the historic neighborhoods of Cairo. How do you see this project at the same time, like Tahrir Square, for example, most recently?
Actually, it's Tahrir Square and all the ancient Egypt, whom Dr. Mustafa have been talking about, 5,000 or something old buildings and historical buildings, which they will start to do it. You can imagine yourself, if there was no new capital, if there was no new cities, what would happen in a city or cities which has been populated by over what it can afford? It would be a disaster at the time, but that's why it was very brave, very serious decision for starting all such future from now.
On the other hand, and regarding the economic progress and development that we have seen in Egypt in the past 6 or 7 years under the tenure of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the file of energy here in Egypt has taken massive steps forward because we did see a lot of problems before that, before 2014 here in Egypt in this sector, in electricity here in Egypt. How do you see the importance of solving the problems in the country and exporting now?
From day one, when I started to hear and listen and see the future plans or the plans, whatever being said about the energy sector, I've heard one word. We are going to have a self-sufficiency and we are going to export. And actually what we're seeing right now is delivering what we have been promised for. We are going on the, we've had sufficiency in electricity.
Yes.
We are discussing export in worldwide, especially neighboring countries. For gas, the same issue.
Yes.
For oil and petrol, the same issue. And actually, Egypt is about to be the hub of the energy business for the region itself. That means labor, investment, cash flow, better economy, better lifestyle, better living, better wages, and so on.
I think the self-sufficiency that you've been mentioning in terms of energy, the sector of energy, will be fulfilled and concluded by the year 2023. So how do you think that in such a short space of time between 2014 and 2023, like 9 years, less than 10 years, that we have solved the problems and we've managed to be exporting as well and maintaining electrical grids with neighboring countries like Sudan and Saudi Arabia at the same time?
From my point of view, I can see a very important message our leadership would like to send, which is we have promised, we have planned what we promised for, we have been working for our promises, We are working to deliver. We have delivered a part of what we promised for, and we're still working on the other to be delivered. That means when we plan for the future, we got a very planned future and very prosperous future, inshallah.
And speaking of planning, we did see a big plan to be reviving tourism after the coronavirus pandemic. How do you see the rates of tourism before the coronavirus pandemic here in Egypt, and of course after the coronavirus pandemic?
I believe that right now, is the appropriate time for the tourism sector to be restructured.
Yes.
In terms of training, labor, capacity, plans, creative programs, and we have started. I think Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada and Gona are working. Luxor, Aswan are working not bad, not good, but still there's still visitors and tourism right there at a minimum. But in the international exhibitions and international tourism companies, they have added Egypt as a preferred destination for their future plans, starting from this summer. And the time has proved that our country is, Egypt is quite safer than others, healthier than others, and most of the environment and atmosphere are available for them to come, enjoy, and get back safely.
Yes, that's a very important point. Security and stability. Security, to be specific, because we had problems in the past with terrorism that was eliminated, thank God, in the past few years. How do you see the importance of this point, security and stability, to be drawing more tourists in the near future?
Security and stability actually are two crucial factors for worldwide countries and companies for the safety of their citizens.
Yes.
They've been fulfilled right here. We are experiencing the best security levels we've ever had a long time ago. We are experiencing the best healthier levels, and still in progress for the future, and a lot more healthier conditions and healthier planning to be done and to go. Yes, we are safe. We are under progress for the health, for a better life.
In terms of numbers of tourists coming here to Egypt, do you think that we can reach the same levels of 2010 in the near future or not?
We can reach higher than 2010, but only in one case.
The highest number was 14 million, I think?
14, I remember
Yes.
I don't remember the figure
yes.
exactly, but we can reach higher than this because you can imagine at that time there was a different capacity from hotels, from and different touristic areas.
Yes.
Currently, you have a higher capacity for the hotel rooms. You got better roads. You got safer roads. You got safer country, and in the meantime, you have the full support of the government and the CBE. So the most important issue here is how would they unify the efforts for all whom are working in the tourism sector to help themselves get a higher traffic. The traffic is there, people are there, and the infrastructure here is ready. So what's in it for them?
Yes.
What's in it for them? What's in it for them is you go grab the touristic business, and get it to yourself by planning, organizing, and delivering the messages, and training.
Speaking of planning, what is missing in your opinion? How do you see the efforts of Minister of Tourism and Antiquities Khalid Al-Anani in this field?
He's doing great, actually. He's doing great. He's doing very good presentation for the current local efforts for the new construction for the new Egyptian museum.
Yes.
For the big museum. We are actually even the conferences which has been held outside, the visits which has been done, the exhibitions which they have attended, I think they are doing very well so far. But the minister is not going to do the business himself. The private sector again. The private sector should help themselves for reviving and get back to higher rates than 2010.
Speaking of the rates, how do you see the importance of, as you've mentioned, the Grand Egyptian Museum?
That would be one of the recent miracles for the recent ages. It would reflect actually.
It's a gift from Egypt to the world.
Right. It would reflect how Egypt would love the world by giving them such impressive and such huge museum.
On the other hand, the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization, the NEMC at Al Fustat, and the transferring of mummies, the mummies from the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir Square to the NEMC. How do you see such a procession that the whole world could be seeing and the whole world could be observing, like the transfer of the statue of Ramesses, for example?
You are right. Actually, we are, or the government right now is transferring Egypt from a very closed museum to an open museum to the whole world. So you can imagine the areas which we are talking about, instead of being a very neglected areas, currently right now, it would be a very attractive areas for the tourism, for the worldwide tourists.
One of the important sectors, of course, that affects the economy positively or negatively is health, as we can see now all over the world, and the efforts of the Minister of Health, Dr. Haile Zaid, during the coronavirus pandemic, and the new systems for the health insurance here in Egypt. How do you see those issues and those measures affecting the economy positively, of course, with the better health for the Egyptian citizens?
It's not only us who said our point of view or our how do you think about it. It's the international community which has already said that Egypt has done, with the World Health Organization, Egypt has done a great effort for containing the pandemic and containing such problems and the coronavirus. In the meantime, developing the health conditions and healthy programs for the local Egyptian people would minimize the risk and would minimize and absorb the problems of the productivity for the producers, for the direct investors, whatever it is, because it's all related together. It's all correlated.
We saw the implementation of the comprehensive insurance system, health insurance system in Port Said. How do you see this experience, and do you think that it would be easily replicated in the other governorates of Egypt?
That's correct. That's correct. Because when they have started with Port Said, actually, they have started because it's they can contain it. It's very
smaller governorate.
Very smaller.
Yes.
So whatever would be done over there, it can be duplicated, replicate to other places and other locations, and this is exactly what's happening. Whatever success people are experiencing over there will be it will be happening everywhere else and in every city else. Yeah.
How do you see the future of the Egyptian economy following this report from Fitch?
Very potential, very promising, and you've been stable for the rating for almost 4 or 5 years right now, and I think tomorrow would be much better than today. We will not be less. If we will not be better, we will never be less, because what's happening what's being done, the work would be done on the ground is perfect. It's meant, it's not by accident. And the government and the political leader has taken the decision, and the Egyptian people have been supporting the decision by the support and standing by the leader.
Yes, and finally, a word for the Martyrs of Egypt, as we've celebrated Martyrs' Day here in the country in the past few days.
We thank you very much. We thank them very much. They have been doing a lot, actually a lot of efforts. They are the secret of the success of the Egyptian men, of the Egyptian children, and even for the political leaders.
And they made all of this possible.
It is. Without them, it wouldn't be possible. You're right.
Yes, exactly. Dr. Nabil Abdel, the Professor of Project Management and Business Administration. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
My pleasure. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure is all mine. And this brings us to the end of the Daily Debate for tonight. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.